It is a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Jim Bennett, who specializes in what dentists and physicians do the worst, and that is he's a chief financial officer. He started NOW CFO, which is basically most companies, would you say, by the time they get to $50 million a year revenue, have a full-time chief financial officer?
Yeah, most do.
And most dentists are doing $500,000 a year or $1 million. Some might be doing $2 million, but there's kind of that spot between $5 million and $50 million where you really should have a chief financial officer, but you're not kind of big enough. And you recognize that, so you started NOW CFO, which is basically supplying part-time chief financial officers to small business. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah,
and I'm a dentist, he's an accountant, and dentists are just simply people who didn't have enough personality to become an accountant. And and you'll see that during the show today.
You might have that mixed up. But.
He'll be twice as wild and crazy as I am. But so I'm going to start with, the bottom line is in any industry, and it's not just dentists. Like I have a patient who people deliver him cans. And then he fills their cans. It could be paint, aerosol, hairspray, and they just deliver him the solvents and the cans, and he loads them. And he just loves it. But if you ask him any specific numbers about his business, they really don't know. Last night I was eating dinner at a restaurant. I've known this restaurant owner for 20 years. I mean, it's 4 miles up the street. And I'll just occasionally throw out a question, we trust each other, we know each other, and I'll say, I'm just curious, what is your food cost? They say McDonald's has a food cost of 31%. What is your food cost? And he goes, that's a good question.
That's exactly the kind of thing that we help business owners answer.
And I'm like, how do you own a restaurant for 20 years and not know your food cost?
I'm shocked they're in business.
Yeah, the food must be good or the location must be good. So I want to start off with I know this sounds elementary and you're probably thinking, what is this?
Let's talk about basics because basics are what matter.
What is a CFO?
A CFO, a chief financial officer. So you talked about how small of a business might need a CFO. Let me talk about a value proposition that we would provide. If you had even if you were doing $300,000 or $400,000 a year, if you could have a CFO come in for 2 or 3 hours a month at a very reasonable hourly rate, you would buy all of their knowledge. So can you imagine for a few $1,000s a year, literally being able to have a very expensive 6-figure, 25 years of experience, accounting, finance knowledge coming in and out of your business? Now look, that is our value proposition. So we, as a firm, we hire these very well qualified, kind of expensive accounting finance people, CPAs, advanced degrees, fancy accounting firms, all of that. We bring them on our payroll, and then we find them clients. And by doing that, we're able to let small businesses reach and have the resource that they wish they had. I mean, if I interview 300 business owners between a few $100,000 and 10 million, most of them would not have a CFO, but nearly every one of them would say, I wish I had a CFO to talk to, because your spouse gets tired of it. In fact, it's my understanding, especially in the dental world, that's one of the main fallbacks for the bookkeeping and the basic accounting is to have the spouse doing that work.
And that's true, because when you were making out with her in the back of the movie theater, you were asking her accounting questions.
Right.
I mean, you were saying, what is the difference between net income and revenue and profit? In between kisses, she was qualifying herself.
You always talk accounting when you're making out. It just always works well.
I know. And the key to the spouse is this. You just ask your spouse a question: do you want to work here? And if she or he says no, then she needs to leave. And making your spouse work in the business because you're so busy making hamburgers and fries and steaks and root canals, so she just married you, so she has to run the business, is not good for anybody. It's not good for your business. Now, if she passionately eats, lives, and breathes your business and wants to have a career outside the house, it's awesome. But so many dentists just say, no, you married me, so you're going to run my business.
Well, in my experience, having sat with probably 10,000 business owners, many of them dentists, usually marriages and working that closely in the business don't work. I don't know what the exact statistics are. My feel is probably 85% of those. It's a bad thing for you both to be together all day, working on business problems, going home and you drag the business problems home with you? It's tough. But, Howard, as we talk about this, our job as CFOs and controllers and even just doing basic accounting is to create visibility to the business owner, because then the business owner can make data-driven decisions. And if you take your gut feel, which makes you a successful business owner, and you add some data to it, some valuable data. Hey, we got our financials closed on time. You know what? Heaven forbid, what if we had a few key performance indicators? And I know that's a big word, a KPI, but what if we had a little scorecard where we had 4 or 5 things that we watch closely, and we measure those things, and it's not a pain, not significant pain to get that data. And now we run our business based on those things. Accounting is just one piece of information, and that's history. It's historical information. So we add the history to the operations, to the sales side of our business, and then what if you could take the historical data and project into the future? Howard, what if you knew that you had enough cash flow and we prepared a bank package that we could go buy another practice and add 2 more dentists? And we could do that every 18 months. Do you think that would be valuable? I would think that'd be valuable. Now, not everybody wants to own 20 practices. Not everyone wants to do that. But it's so exciting to take historical data, operational data, sales data, all these things, create a little scorecard, and start to drive our business. The Japanese have a great word, and I'll probably mispronounce it, kaizen. Kaizen is continual improvement. So if you can work in your business, not just in your business, but on your business every week by looking at your scorecard, knowing your finances, knowing you've got the integrity of the information you're looking at is there, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And then you can make little tweaks and changes to your business that add dramatic amounts of profitability. Most business owners are unfortunately owning a job. And I think dentists fall into this a little bit.
Explain that concept, owning a job.
Well, a dentist is a highly trained, highly skilled professional. And they should be handsomely rewarded for being highly skilled and intensely, let alone the number of years they spend to get there. But owning a job is kind of a bummer over time, because you don't ever feel like you get ahead, and you've got your spouse in there, or a relative doing the books, and you just don't feel like you get ahead. Information and visibility gets you out of feeling like you're just an employee to yourself. It gets rid of that ball and chain that you feel is dragging you down.
I want to, and by the way, this man walks the talks. You're currently in 16 markets you're in 16 states? How many?
16 cities, 8 states.
16 cities, 8 states. Rattle off those states. 16 cities in 8 states. Rattle those off.
Yeah, so we're mostly in the western U.S. So we're in Tennessee. We're heavy in Texas. We're in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington.
Arizona, Oregon, and Washington. And as a disclaimer, I want to be truthfully honest. I am your client, so I just want to get that up. But you did not pay me to speak. You don't. There's no money changing hands this interview. But I think that I want to start at the very beginning, because you're probably talking about 7,000 dentists, and they're all varying degrees. So I want to start at the beginning, and we'll work your way up to a chief financial officer. I believe that, the S&P, and tell me when I'm wrong, please tell me when I'm a dentist. I'm a trained dentist. I'm not a CPA. I do have an MBA from Arizona State University, which I thought was a game changer. They never taught me anything in dental school. I learned all my business from my dad, and I started wondering, what does my dad really know versus a professional? And I went back to MBA, and it was Monday and Wednesday nights from 6 to 10 for 2 years. It was the most fun I ever had, and ever since I graduated, my business just boomed. And just knowing.
That's so exciting when that happens. So exciting.
My God. But let's start off in the very beginning, because, so I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and my family is Catholic, and where we went to church, the founder of Pizza Hut did. And he said that he told me, Dan Carney, that he noticed the successful businesses that by the time they had their first 5 employees, one of them was a full-time bookkeeper. So they always knew their cost. And then we were at an MBA school that if you take the average for humans, SP 500, the average money, if you buy something for $1, on average, 53 cents of a dollar goes to pay people, whether that's the people. And so when you look at dentistry, where the ADA says we average 65% overhead, 35% would go to the dentist, and that's a person. Technically, a dentist is a human. I mean, technically, from a zoologist point of view. And then 25% for staff. So we're back at that 53%.
Accountants are like that too,
Accountants
from a
like
zoologist standpoint.
So the first thing that irks me is they send out their payroll to a payroll service, because I'm like, and then I ask them, well, what percent of your labor, of your cost is people? I don't know. Well, how much do you pay your hygienist hourly? I'm not sure. It's like, I don't even like them sending out their money for payroll. And then they say they have an accountant, but when I study their accountant relationship, it's basically only preparing for the IRS.
Once a year. There's not even additional meetings.
And I started with the smartest move I ever made was in 1998. I hired my full-time bookkeeper. This is something I learned in MBA school. Mm-hmm. And her name is Lori Zalowski, who now, a gazillion years later, is the president of my company. And she started as a bookkeeper, just a little $12 an hour bookkeeper. But she sat right next to me where all the information, and I'd be doing a root canal. I'd come back here and she'd say, what's this? And then I'd go do a crown. She'd come back, what's this? And slowly but surely, I mean, she just understood the business, and we took it to a whole different level. And so my question to you is, do you agree? I mean, should you outsource your number one expense to a payroll service and then use a CPA who basically calls you up on October 14th at midnight and says, oh, tomorrow you owe the IRS a check for 50 grand. The dentist's like, 50 grand? I don't even have $5,000 in my savings account. How could I owe him 50 grand? So I know that's a ton of questions, but take everything I just said and run with that.
Howard, you and I hadn't really sat down until right now. It's almost like you just knew one of my hot buttons, one of the things I like to talk about.
And that's because he's the CEO in Utah, and I use one of your guys in my city.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting that you bring this up. So I want to talk about, just for a minute, the most efficient way to set up an accounting department. It's very important you understand that. So you want to develop process and procedure for each thing that goes on. In the dental world, we need to make sure that we bill for every procedure that we do, right? And then we need to make sure we collect that, and we need to understand the speed that we're going to get paid. And we can have clerical people do a lot of that work if they're properly trained. And our business actually lends itself nicely to that, because then you take your most expensive accounting finance person, the CFO, and you just use them a little bit on an hourly basis. So in $1 million business, you might use a company like ours for 1 to 2 days a month, or less even. And now you're getting that supervision. You're putting the least expensive $12 an hour person that you talked about on your payroll. And then we can take all of that data that's put into your accounting system or your practice management system and bring it to the forefront with financials, with a cash projection, with all of those things. And you will get the data and the information you need, the visibility to make better decisions, without having this very expensive, $150,000 person on your payroll. And that's really how everyone should set up an accounting department. I wish I could get more people to do it, not just to toot my own horn, but just that's the least expensive, most effective, most cost-efficient way to have an accounting department set up.
So if you were a single dentist, would you recommend that they marry a dentist in their class or marry a CFO? Which would be the better marriage?
That's a good question, but I'm an accountant. I got to say, marry the CFO, and then you'll own 20 practices. Let's
be more specific. What accounting software is just your over-the-counter Quicken good enough, or should it be QuickBooks Pro? And then I want to ask you professionally, to do what I wanted to do years ago, I went with Peachtree.
Yeah.
Is now that a special markets for a bigger company? And then Microsoft, didn't they back in the day buy Great White Plains Accounting?
Great Plains
Accounting. And then I noticed the S&P 500, they all use the German company
SAP.
Talk about SAP, Microsoft's Great Plains, QuickBooks Pro.
So a lot of the practice management softwares that are out there, if you get enough training, can do this work. What we find is many practices are using QuickBooks, not Quicken. Quicken is really just a checking account type thing, but QuickBooks. QuickBooks will do a lot of things. It's usually used in conjunction with practice management software.
Now, is that QuickBooks or QuickBooks Pro or QuickBooks Pro Online?
Well, there's really 4 levels of QuickBooks. There's QuickBooks Online, which is it's kind of the starter kit. They get you hooked on it. They want you to use it for a little bit of a fee every month. Then there's QuickBooks Pro, which goes on a desktop. Then there's Premier, QuickBooks Premier, which is kind of a mid-range software, and then QuickBooks Enterprise. So Enterprise is for more than 10 users. Premier is for 3 to 10 users, and QuickBooks Pro is usually, I think, up to 5 users. Online is just cloud-based. And
so which one should a dentist be on if they want to work with a long distance advisor like a CPA or a CFO?
They can really be on any of them. We just got to make sure it works in the background. The simplest one is online. The problem with QuickBooks Online is Intuit, the owner of QuickBooks, has taken some of the features out of it, so it's not as robust as the others.
So Quicken is for the consumer for a checking book. QuickBooks is just
it's a basic business accounting software.
And then QuickBooks Online is a little more advanced. What would be the next tier up?
Well, QuickBooks Pro, just less users. So a lot of dentists, I think, could get by with online or Pro.
QuickBooks Pro, how many online users can use that?
I think you can have 3.
3,
maybe,
and then what would be the next?
5. Premier, QuickBooks Premier, which is up to 10. And then Enterprise is 10 or more.
And how much would like Enterprise be?
Enterprise is $3,000 to $4,000 to buy the software.
And is that what you're recommending for me?
No, I think we could get away with probably Premier, honestly. Pro
well,
or Premier.
Well, okay, we'll go back because I've been on Peachtree for 15 years.
So here's the Peachtree is fine. Actually, if you're entrenched with the software, we don't move you.
But is Peachtree as good and intuitive as
it is as good. It just has not been marketed nearly as well. QuickBooks is the 800-pound gorilla now. And
you see that in dentistry. There's some of the greatest dentists in the world, and they have small practices and no one knows about it. And then some of the averages and below averages dental offices in the world crush it in marketing and have these $1 million practices.
Yeah.
And I think the consumer often thinks that the big successful practices, like in Phoenix, the guys in Scottsdale do all this marketing that they're cosmetic dentists, and people drive clear across town to pay twice as much. And there's a guy in their backyard in Glendale or Chandler that does it just as well or even better for a lot less money.
Yeah.
So Peachtree is okay.
Peachtree is fine.
And what about Great Wines with Microsoft?
Okay,
a lot of people use Microsoft.
Now you're talking about very expensive software.
How much does that jump up to?
Great Plains, which is actually called Microsoft Dynamics now. It's been renamed by Microsoft.
Microsoft Dynamics?
Dynamics, yeah.
I'm giving away my age when I call it Great Plains Accounting.
No, not really. It's just happened the last few years.
Okay.
So it's very expensive.
Like how much is very expensive?
$250,000 to buy and install.
Okay, and then SAP from Germany.
$250,000 to $1 million.
Wow, and that's what all the pretty much the S&P 500 seems like they
all
have.
And those guys will spend even more than that.
So if you're a young dentist listening to this podcast, and this dentist has been out for 2 or 3 years, but has great dreams,
yes,
and is going to be really successfully financially someday, what should they jump into? Enterprise?
No, I don't think
Premier,
I don't
Pro?
think Pro or Premier would be fine for one office. That would be fine.
You know what I want you to do? This is off topic, sorry, but my biggest beef with the practice management information system is they can't make you a statement of income, a statement of cash flow. They can't do payroll. They do all the insurance and billing and all the CRM and everything. and they don't know their costs. So these dentists are signing up for 10 different insurance plans. And this insurance PPO says, I'll give you $100 for a filling. And this one says, I'll give you $150. And this one says $200. And they don't even know their cost of the filling.
Right.
But their schedule knows how long they spend doing the filling. And if all the costs are running through, and all the practice management softwares I talk to, the biggest one is in your backyard, Provo, Utah, Dentrix, and I've talked to them until I'm blue in the face. They don't even respond. EagleSoft with Patterson, same thing. I've used SoftDent, which was owned by Kodak, Carestream, whatever. They don't say anything. But there's one company in Oregon where I got the ear of the guy. Jordan Sparks is a dentist, started at Open Dental, and his brother Nathan runs the whole show. And Jordan or Nathan are this close of being able to say, okay, we'll interface them. They're this close. I think we could push them over the edge. And on Dental Town, where there's 205,000 dentists, the only software where they got raving fans is this Open Dental. And they have an open format and everything. And I think it might be something where if you and I and Jordan and Nathan Sparks looked at this, someday a dentist could get a fee schedule from a PPO, enter it, and says, your cost for a filling, the way you do it, you take an hour, is $215. So if the fee schedule was $214, he said, well, I don't want to lose $1 every time I do a filling, so I got to either lower my cost or I need to raise my fees. But just quit doing dentistry for a loss. And I think it'd be a game changer in dentistry.
Howard, I would love to do that with you because I want to see people succeed. That's why I do what I do. I want to see people succeed. And if we can help them get the visibility, right? Visibility is how much does it cost me to do that? How much can I make on that procedure? Let's help them do that.
Now, I know you have privacy issues, but you actually do some other dental offices that are bigger dental offices, some corporate dental, multiple location dental offices.
Yes, we do.
So if one of my homies is listening to you, you can take them on if they're from Tennessee, and you went there because of Jack Daniels, I assume, right? He's from Utah, so he needed a place to go where they had some good whiskey. So you started out in Jack Daniels, Tennessee, where Corey Glenn practices, who I think is one of the most talented.
Do you know why we went to Nashville? I think you might find this interesting.
Oh, it was Nashville? Probably 2nd Street. That's my favorite street in the United States, where they have all the country western bars.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons. But actually, we had a great employee in our Dallas office that needed to move there for some family reasons. And we said, that's a great reason. Let's open an office.
My 3 favorite streets are New Orleans, what is that street? Bourbon Street.
Bourbon Street.
Just a bar and a band and a great restaurant. And then in Memphis, Beale Street, where I'm actually sold. I actually saw B.B. King playing jazz on Beale Street.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I think it's 2nd Street or 2nd Avenue in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm a country western fan. I just say, no, I don't like country music. But you like country music when you're in Nashville.
I would agree.
It is
It's
just
a lot of
amazing.
fun.
Those are the 3 most fun streets in America. So if some dentist is listening to you and they're in Tennessee, Texas, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, you could take them as a client now?
Yeah, we could take them. And our firm is very dedicated to coming on site at their practice or practices as much as possible, because we want to understand their risk profile, what keeps them up at night. Even though we could all have this same exact business, we're all human beings. We have different things we worry about, and we like our consultants to get to know them, to become a trusted advisor, and really just part of the family there. And as part of the family, they're working on the problems that business has. And we actually coined the term the water cooler effect. So the water cooler effect, when I'm in a business or one of my consultants is in a business, we have the owner, CEO comes in and talks to us and tells us what they hear, and then, well, guess what? The dental hygienist comes in and talks to us about some inefficiency, and then the invoicing billing person comes in and talks about some issues they're having and some collections, and we're working on the numbers. Pretty soon we know more about the business than the owner. And then we can take that data and we can use that to help improve the business. And that's where the forecasts and the KPIs and all the things really come together, because real information isn't the spreadsheet. Real information is what's behind it and how we can take that and we can turn it into actionable steps to improve our business. We use a project or a process called Strategic Link that marries strategy with the tactical plan. and you turn it into 13-week tactical plans, and you continually improve a business. And you do that by having information, correct numbers, and a plan for the future. And that's where business gets exciting. Then we can realize the hopes and the dreams of the young dentist you were talking about.
Well, you're in my home and in my dining room, and you asked me what keeps me up at night. It's my two cats, Tigger and Mimi. So I'd like you to take them when you leave, because when one of them things starts licking my head in the middle of the night with their scratchy tongue, I'm like, really, really? It's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're licking my head. But anyway, will you take my cats?
But I'll work on the cash flow. How's that?
Okay. So I want you to. I still, as much as we talk about all day long, I still think every dentist thinks a CPA does their taxes.
So can I clarify that difference?
Yeah.
So that, look, we're not, and I don't think your operational accounting person, your CFO or controller should be doing your taxes. Everyone needs an excellent tax person. A tax person spends their life in the code. They spend their life looking for deductions for you as a business owner or anybody that's listening. That's their job. Leverage that expertise, pay them what they need to do that. But their job or their perceived job is not typically to come to your business, be at your business, and understand all the operational things that happen. We want to help you with those decisions. We want to help you fix it early, not worry about the $50,000 payment at the end of the year, because we've planned that. We know it's coming. We interact closely with that tax person, but we don't want to be that person. Let's work on the operation. Let's find extra ways to make money. Let's make sure that every procedure we perform is profitable to us. That matters. That's data that matters.
You know, sometimes things are thrown around loosely, and people, if you say it enough times, people believe it. Do you think business is business, and it doesn't matter if you're a CFO and you're looking at a place that makes root canals or donuts or pizza? Is business business?
Well, there are similarities, but so yes and no in the same sentence. So there are similarities, whether you're making donuts or you're doing dental work. You need to understand how your cash moves through your business. You need to understand if you can make payroll. You need to understand your key drivers. What are your people cost? What is your cost of goods sold? So those are important things to everyone. But then from there, each industry has nuances and important things to it that we understand, and we can help move you through that. And
you know, another thing that I'm just throwing terms all around. Feel free to, if you want to look at the camera and just lecture to the dentist on things they know. But it seems like dentists don't even know the basics. Like they think all debt is bad. They don't see business debt as leverage. Like they'll come out and they'll complain that they graduated $250,000 student loans, and that's like an evil nightmare that they just can't get over. Yet then they'll turn around and buy a $400,000 house. You'll never hear them complain about that. They'll talk about buying an X-ray machine for $100,000. They don't think twice about buying a fishing condo for $100,000. They just seem to not understand that debt for consumption is very different than debt for business. What are your thoughts on debt for business, debt for consumption?
Well, they both happen in all of our lives, especially when you start talking about a home. But debt for business should be planned. And one of the tools that I like to put together, as a firm we like to put together, is a cash flow forecast, so we can understand why we're investing. Because debt for business is an investment. Now, you could argue a home is an investment, all of those things. But all debt should be planned, and it needs to be planned from the standpoint that we need to understand how we're going to service that debt. When we buy that X-ray machine, we need to understand what it's going to produce for us and how it's going to help us make money. The fishing cabin, hey, you do that for fun. That's okay, but you should still plan that that's going to work in your life. You know, not long ago, I met with a gentleman that had a handful of practices that had not worked out, and he was like, I can't make my Ferrari payment. And we sat down and we started looking at it, and it's like, yeah, you should just let the Ferrari go, because there are a lot of other problems here. But none of it had been planned. He just willy-nilly went out and did those things.
Because they got a gut feeling. Yeah. And I tell them gut feelings without any data is just, your guts are filled with fecal matter. A gut feeling is a shitty opinion until you have numbers that confirm your gut feeling. And by the way, the reason I'm successful is I have a 50-pound belly of gut feelings, but I combine it with an MBA accounting team. I mean, I have full-time Stacy and Christy. That's all they do is payables, receivables, accounting, all that stuff. But there's a difference between doing, your payables, receivables, paying all the bills versus someone coming in at 30,000 feet that sees many different businesses, many different dental offices or corporate offices, and can provide logic or explain the big picture behind all these numbers.
Well, our firm will bring best practices to every business because we're fortunate in that we get to see those other businesses and we get to see the things they do correctly and the things that they don't. And we want to be careful. Everything's very confidential at our firm between clients, but we also want to share things that make sense.
Can you share any dental stories from any of your dental clients over the years?
Yeah, a couple of things that that we've seen. I mean, just how we do billing, and I've just seen a lot of holes in how that's done, and a lot of it has to do with lack of training. Not by the dentist. The dentist knows what they're doing, but they're busy producing work. But behind the scenes, just make sure you create some checks and balances so that you know that every procedure is being billed and billed correctly. Because you brought up the filling, one at 100, one at 150, and one at 200, just because they're with different carriers. But let's make sure that that happens so that we don't leak revenue. It sounds crazy, the revenue would leak. The other thing that I find is huge amounts of receivables in dental offices because we're not following up appropriately with the payer. And because we don't follow up appropriately, then we don't resolve some of the things that maybe weren't received correctly or maybe weren't keyed in right. Some of those things, the systems are not forgiving. And we've got to make sure that we're on top of all of that, or we can tie up mountains and mountains of cash that may be paid very, very late or not paid at all. And so those are the two things that I worry about.
For years and years and years, there wasn't a single dentist friend I had that I couldn't have met up with them after work and just checked what was entered versus what was written up in the charts. So on the chart it said you took a PA and a bite wing and did a root canal, but it charged out was just the root canal. You didn't charge out the PA, the bite wing, and just what the difference between clinical notes and what was billed was always minimum $100 discrepancy. And I was like, dude, we can go out for dinner and have drinks till midnight for free just from a little simple audit check. I mean, just little things like that.
And it's just creating process and procedure and some checks and balances. The other thing you've brought up several times is just really understanding your cost structure. Sometimes it just gets away from you. If you get too many family members involved, you're trying to take care of too many people. If you want to run efficiently and effectively, you've got to really take some time. I like to say invest some time in all of this stuff. And the tough thing is, you love what you do as a dentist. I'm sure all these people watching love what they do. They love taking care of people and solving their problems. But as business owners, as CEOs, we all have to step back and we have to do some things that aren't the most fun. But looking at the numbers, understanding, like you did, you invested a lot of time. You hired the bookkeeper that's now your president, investing either your personal time or hiring people to do some of these things so that you really know. And if you really know and you understand, you make great decisions.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I would probably start crying or get verklempt or like I was at a funeral if you told me I was never going to pull a set of wisdom teeth again or do a root canal. I mean, I just love that stuff. And everybody likes different things of dentistry. The person I podcast for you is a pediatric dentist. I swear to God, if I had to be a pediatric dentist, I would leave the country. I'd turn in my license and throw a dart on the globe. I mean, if I had to work with 3-year-olds crying every day, I'd quit. But give me a person in severe pain, wisdom. I love that stuff. But they don't like to do numbers. But here's my feeling and my analysis of 28 years of dentistry. They mix, this religion, philosophy of treat other people like you want to be treated, and I want to do the best for you. And they build their patient an Oldsmobile, Buick, or Cadillac. And then the insurance company says, oh, well, we're only paying for a Chevy or a used car. And they don't know the difference. And every consultant will tell you, I can go into a place and cancel 20% of their insurance contracts and dismiss 500 of their patients, their gross production will fall 100,000 a year and their net income will go up 50, because they don't even know that they're subsidizing when they sell a Cadillac, and they're taking that profit and fixing this person. And then you sit there and you try to talk logic to him and say, well, if the insurance is only going to give you this much money, you can't afford a tooth-colored, expensive composite filling. You need to do a low-cost amalgam. Well, that's not how I treat, and that's how I do it. If I, treat other people like you want to be treated, I wouldn't do that for myself. It's like, dude, your philosophy, treat other people like you want to be treated. I get it. My 2 oldest sisters are Catholic nuns. I get it. But you can't afford to, if you want to do charity dentistry, here's my deal. If you want to do charity dentistry, you should know that you're doing charity dentistry.
And call it charity.
Yeah, I go to Tanzania, Africa, worked in orphanage. I've gone to Mexico and worked in orphanage. Do charity dentistry. I just want you to know it. And I have a feeling that if dentists realize, okay, here's all your patients, and on all these you lose money every time you see them, and all these you make money, they'd probably start looking at these and say, oh, treat other people like you want to be treated? Yeah, learn how to brush 2 minutes every morning and every night, floss before you go to bed, and quit drinking Mountain Dew. And they don't know their cost. Like a dentist will come out and they'll say, oh yeah, I just did a MOD composite, it was $250, and man, it turned out great. I say, fantastic. Did you make $12 on that filling or $20? No idea. I've still not met a dentist in my lifetime who can walk out of an operatory and I just say, did you make or lose money on that? I have no idea. I think I'm making money. And here's the thing that's happening in hospitals and dental offices. Hospitals know if they do the big procedures, 3 a day, a coronary artery bypass graft, known as a bypass, is $100,000. Colon cancer or prostate cancer, prostate's number 1 in men. That's a $70,000 operation. These hospitals all know, well, if I do 3 bypasses a day, we're always making money. But man, when we sit there and we don't have 3 big surgeries a day, we're losing money. It's like, well, how do you do 10,000 build out procedures in a hospital and you only make money if you do 3 bypasses? And I don't think that's a healthy system. I don't think we should have a healthcare system that if someone's not getting filleted open for a bypass 3 times a day, they're losing money. And it's the same thing in dental offices. Here's what I know in dental offices. They have these big procedures. A crown is $1,000, a root canal is $1,000, a denture is $1,000, an implant's $1,000. And they all know, well, if I do 4 or 5 of those a day, I'm good. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's true and that works. But I really wish you would make at least 1 penny on every procedure you do and know where you're bleeding. It's kind of like pouring water in a bucket with holes in it. Right. And they just don't know where the holes are. Can you, if they called you, could your CFOs help them understand and know their cost?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the main things we help businesses do is understand their cost accounting. It's the same thing whether it's a manufacturer or a dental practice. There's always training involved because the devil's in the details. So a lot of times we've got to make sure that our staff can help us get that right, because most of that's going to flow through, that detail of that procedure is going to flow through the practice management software. So we've got to get good at that, and then we couple that with QuickBooks or Peachtree or whatever else, and we should be able to get that kind of information. I mean, there's lots of businesses that run on weekly cycles, and it works much better than a monthly cycle.
I guarantee you, if you and me could get Jordan and Nathan for you 2 to work together, so at Open Dental and you work together, I think you would probably be doing only dental.
I think that would be
5 years.
Exciting to do that. That would be very exciting.
I think it'd be probably our single greatest contribution to dentistry. It wouldn't be a Dental Town website. It wouldn't be a podcast. I think for dentists to know their costs, if we could pioneer dentists to understand their costs, I think it'd be the biggest game changer. And that's what needs to happen in healthcare.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, you go into these hospitals. I mean, I got 4 boys, so when I walk into the emergency room, they know my name. And and you talk to any of those people, they don't. It's amazing how they just don't know what's going on. So explain. What else do you think? I've had you here 40 minutes. We're 2/3 down. I only got 20 minutes left. Educate them on more accounting CFO stuff. When I was in MBA school, they said accountants make 3 reports. They make you a statement of income, which they call a profit and loss. A statement of income, what is your revenue, expenses, statement of income, but it's mainly for a third-party tax collector like the IRS, unless you're publicly traded like the SEC. Then there's a statement of cash flow, which I've never, ever met a dentist who ever got a statement of cash flow. And then there's a balance sheet. What balances? What you have, your asset balances with what you owe, your liability versus what you have into your equity, which really you only need if you're borrowing other people's money or you're getting a divorce. I mean, it's not a management accounting thing.
I like the practical aspects here.
Yeah. So basically, their accountant is only giving them a third-party P&L that has artificial numbers like depreciation, deferred taxes, and they don't really make. I guess this is a long-winded way of saying no one's giving them data to make managerial decision making. They're giving them data for a third-party tax collector, or here's how that you need to get a mortgage and a loan for your house, but they're not getting managerial data. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. You know what's fun to build for a company once we get the historical financials caught up and accurate is a cash flow forecast. So not a statement of cash flows like I'm sure all of you suffered through in some.
Okay, you're talking to 7,000 people who don't even know what a statement of cash flow is. So slow down, Spanky.
Oh, okay.
Slow down. Explain what a statement of cash flow is before you start telling them that you're going to make a cash flow forecast.
Well, let me tell you the one that really works, that's useful for business. It's not the one that they teach us how to do in accounting. You know, when I worked at Deloitte and worked on large public companies, it's not that. That's a statement of cash flows. It's very defined by the accounting world.
And most of them think a statement of cash flow is their checking book, their check register.
Yeah, but we can build something similar that helps us actually look at cash in and cash out by category. So now it makes your income statement or your profit and loss even more meaningful. So now we can see the timing of cash and the speed that cash moves through our business. Those are very critical to success in a business. So it sounds really simple to say, well, what cash is going to come in? I like to sit down with a business owner, and it's something we borrowed from the bankruptcy courts, but to do a 13-week cash flow by week. So 13 weeks is 1 quarter. And if I sit with you today's Wednesday, and I say, okay, let's do 13 weeks, and we'll sit down next Wednesday for 15 minutes, and let's see how we did in the last 7 days. Let's see if your cash in number is accurate. Because I'll bet our expenses are pretty close, because we know how many people worked, we know what our rent is, we know our utilities, we know the cost of a lot of the material we used, right? I'll bet you next Wednesday we miss it because we were too optimistic. But we'll learn from that, and we go through that process again, and we iterate and we learn and we iterate and we learn, and over time you can really understand that. So that's a good step towards really understanding your costs. Now, not procedurally understanding your costs, but at least from a flyover, to know that we're making money every day and why.
How can one of my homies contact NOW CFO to see if you could help them? Would they go to www.nowcfo.com? What's the number?
855.
It's 1-800? 1-800?
No, 1-855.
1-855.
669.
669.
2361.
2361? So an 800 number is now 855? I thought they had 8. Really? I never even heard that before. Must be a Utah thing.
They're all used up.
855-669-2361. So what else? What other concepts do you think they would need to know? I've only got you for 15 minutes more.
A lot of it is from there. I mean, we've talked about basics and making sure that they're accurate. Everything from knowing your cost, understanding your revenue, making sure no revenue leaks, that you're invoicing for everything, you're collecting timely. But from there, a lot of it comes to style. I mean, what I'd like to do is help. I mean, it's interesting with the millennials, the things we're seeing in accounting is people really like work-life balance. I would imagine in dentistry you're seeing the same thing. So there'll be an opportunity for some people to really grow as some of these young professionals turn into employees. And so we'd love to help people with that. We like to help bring finance into the table and opportunities to grow across geographic regions.
I always looked at it like this. When you graduate from dental school, it's like you graduated, they hand you a lawnmower. And they say, congratulations, you're a doctor of lawn mowing. And most of these dentists just say, okay, I'm going to push a lawnmower from age 25 to 65. And it's like, you should push a lawnmower. And right out of the gate, I just pushed the lawnmower. I thought, you know what? I should hire another person to push the lawnmower. And I should work a little more on the business of creating a lawn mowing business, getting new accounts or marketing or finance and all that stuff. And what's funny is all the greatest, the biggest dental offices, I know that's not a measure of success, but like Rick Workman's a dentist. He owns 1,500 offices. He hasn't touched a patient in 20 years. Rick Kirshner owns 500 offices. He hasn't touched a patient for 20 years. Stephen Thorne of Pacific Dental Services, his dad's a dentist. He thought, why should I go to dental school for 8 years? But in hell, he said in 8 years I could have 5 offices. And now he has 500. Now, those are extreme examples. I'm sure most of you don't want 1,000 offices, but all the people that have 500 to 1,000 offices, they haven't seen a patient in 20 years, or they didn't even go to dental school. So the people who made it all the way to the top, they don't touch teeth. And one of the reasons you're struggling, because you just dream about teeth, and I get it, but there's got to be some moderation in there. You got to, and if you're only interested in fixing teeth, you got to find some people on your team or outsource a CFO or someone that can say, dude, I know you just want to make something, but I'm in charge of watching the numbers, and I want you to look at these numbers and think about some things.
Well, and some of that is my own desire, spreading my business across the country. I started with 2 clients, and here I am now with 150 employees and starting to spread out. So a lot of it is what you want to accomplish, but everything from one office to a handful of offices should be very doable. And let's go help people succeed, whatever their dream is, whatever their goal is. Let's go help people do that.
Now I want to talk about the dark side of your business, and that is, someday we die. Someday we have to sell our practice. Someday, it's over. It helps also to have a plan if you were going to transition or sell, or you die and there's an estate or whatever. I mean, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
So
the thing no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Someday
be the funeral planner.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the funeral plan side of what you do?
Well, it is planning. I mean, you need to think about the loved ones around you.
Some people call it an exit strategy.
Yeah.
So talk about the exit strategy, or dying or retiring or selling or moving out.
Well, we spend a lot of time
with
people helping them sell their businesses. And you want to do that long before we're headed to a funeral. But it's really the last big event that could help you really land fantastically from a financial standpoint. But it also monetizes your business. You put in all those years, maybe you worked in your business 30 years and you've built up a really solid practice or a few practices. There's a lot of value there, but if you don't have good information so that someone from the outside can come and look at it and understand that's what you're telling them and your story is accurate, then they're not going to be interested in buying your client base and your customer base, because that's really what you've built up and all those relationships. I spent most of my last Saturday with one of our clients in a different industry that is doing $10 million in revenue. That would be a pretty substantial set of dental practices, right? And didn't really understand the process of selling. Been in business 17 years. We just educated them, him and his partner, for about 6 hours on the entire process. Well, that's valuable to them, and I don't know if they're ultimately going to sell, but it became very clear that there are a lot of things that they really don't know the answer to, that a third party coming in is going to ask. They're going to ask some tough questions, and you've got to prepare for that. So if you want to exit or you want to plan your future, you've got to make sure that you've got this. It's really an investment, whether you're investing in additional bookkeeping or a high-level CFO to help you a little bit, whatever. It's an investment in your business and in your future.
My mother thinks Frank Sinatra is the greatest singer-songwriter in the world because she's not gifted enough to know that Michael Jackson is. But my favorite Michael Jackson song was The Man in the Mirror. So I want to ask you this question, and maybe it's not fair, but a lot of dentists blame all their economic woes on the economy, Obama, everything. And The Man in the Mirror says, is it really Obama in the country and the economy, or is it really, look in the mirror? In your 20 years experience, when a business is booming or suffering, how much is external factors, exogenous factors, like the 2008 meltdown recession we had, and how much of it is that they're just not running their business as well as it could be?
Well, there's always the combination of both things, but you're going to be the most prepared for any rough event like the Great Recession if you're running your business properly. So you understand your cost structures, you know how much revenue you need to generate each day. You understand when you're going to get paid. All of those things matter a lot. And, it was interesting going through the recession. We helped restructure a lot of businesses. The businesses that got wiped out had two problems. They had little or no cash reserve and lots of debt. So when we talked earlier about when does debt make sense? Well, it makes sense when it's in a bigger plan. And you've got to understand our economy cycles every 7 to 10 years or less. I don't know the exact numbers, but you've got to be prepared. If you're going to work from 25 to 65, that's 40 years. You've got to be prepared to go through a handful of cycles. So everyone has a little different risk profile, but those are the things that we help you highlight, get it out on the table, and then work within those parameters so that we can have a cash reserve and we have smart debt and we're prepared and we understand our business. Then if Obama does something or there's a recession, we're the most prepared for that event. It doesn't mean it'll be easy, but we'll be more ready than the guy down the street.
In 2008, I was underprepared because during the recession, I always thought I could sell all 4 of my boys off to the adoption agency or the orphanage, and I got no buyers.
Yeah. Then you looked at organ donation or something.
So you said the cycles are every 7 years. That last one was 2008. It's already 2015. Can you believe that was 7 years ago? And there's a lot of people. I mean, you can't predict the future. There's a lot of people who think right now the economy's not doing too good. And what do you think of the overall economy right now for dentists specifically?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because we're in a recovery that doesn't. If they survey the American public, they don't feel like there's been a recovery because there's a lot of people that still don't feel like they're back to where they were, or let alone ahead. Some of the indicators are clearly there. But I interview investment bankers almost every week, and they're telling me we've still got some more time, but no one has a crystal ball. So the number one thing to do is just be prepared, understand your numbers, run a robust, successful practice. That's going to be the best preparation.
I think Paul Krugman nailed it when he said, because it summed up my memory of 50 years, is that Americans don't think they're doing well unless they're a bubble economy, like the stock market from 93 to 2000, where if you just threw a dart, the stock went up, or real estate bubbles. It's like their expectations are, unless they're in a bubble, they don't think they're doing good. And when the economy's just slugging along at 3% growth, just slugging along, everybody thinks, oh, it's so lame, because they only get excited when there's a bubble. When they buy a rental property for $100,000 and 3 years later it's worth $200,000 and it's building up to a big pop. So I think Krugman's right that unless it's a bubble, Americans are always going to complain. So you know what I wish you would do, and I would be so grateful if you do this. I wish you would help me go meet Nathan and Jordan Sparks over in Oregon, who have the most popular deal, and they're this close. I mean, I've been chewing on everyone's ankle. Dentsply out of Provo, Utah, owned by Henry Schein. Patterson Eaglesoft in Effingham, Illinois, owned by Patterson in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Carestream, Practice, all of them. And I'm not getting any biters, and I've been on them for 20 years. And but I really think we're close to home now, so I'd like to do that. But you know what I really wish you would do, if you'd find it in your heart, is we put up 350. I sold the University of Phoenix Online idea. I mean, it's right here in Phoenix. Every time I would drive across town, first it was like 90 in, they had one building, then it was a second building, and a third building, and then it's these monster buildings. So in 2004, I thought, well, I'm going to steal that idea and do online CE for dentistry. So you don't have to close down your practice. You don't have to fly, and plus an 8-hour lecture, no one can stay awake during 8 hours, and just little short segments. And then what I like about online CE, you don't have to take notes because it's still there. You can just go back. You can print it out. You could
let's go build some together.
Yeah, if you built something like the dental CFO, or how to be a CFO in dentistry, or what is a CFO, or probably couldn't even call it CFO because none of the dentists they'd look and go, CFO. What's a CFO? Is that a filling? Is there a new root canal called CFO? But if you built an online module, whether it be an hour or a curriculum, I don't know if you could explain to 205,000 dentists what CFO is in 1 hour or 2 hours, but as long as it took you, I think it'd be worth your time, because I think you would educate a lot of dentists, which would reduce a lot of their stress. A lot of dentists are wearing way too many hats. And when they get stressed, their family gets stressed. Sometimes they deal with that stress by drinking Listerine or being cranky or whatever.
Let's not do that.
And I think a lot of them would say, you know what, Jim, you just sold me. I think I'm gonna hire your services. I think it might be a good expansion plan. Any chance we could look forward to that someday?
Yeah, I would love to do that. So we'll go back and put our heads together and start to put something like that together, maybe in 1 hour modules, different things. And it could be, I'd like to really explain, like you talked about the balance sheet, the income statement, a statement of cash flows, some of these different tools that people can just use.
And not to be an insult to you, you guys are doctors. I mean, dentists are rocking smart people. I mean,
yes, they are.
You can't be a dentist unless you get an A in calculus, algebra, trig, physics. I mean, these guys know how many ATP come out of a Krebs cycle. But I'm a dentist, so I can call them on their own shit. They couldn't read a statement of cash flow or a balance sheet if you put a gun to their head. And then none of them know their cost. I mean, and then if someone says to me over the years, I've done this several times, they'll say, yeah, I'm over it. My labor is 20%. And you say, well, does that include FICA matching? What? Does that include health insurance? I don't know. I mean, so even when they say they know a number, every one of my dental consultant friends will tell me that when a dentist is calling them up saying, I need help, and they tell them all the numbers, when they get there, none of what they said even matches, whether it's to the good or the worst. I mean, this will have to be a very elementary program that you could start out very elementary and then the second hour, and build up. Because if you just walk out there, start throwing terms around, you're going to fly right over their head.
Well, that'd be fun, because those that understand it would be a good review, and those that maybe were busy kissing their girlfriend during that class, they can be the first time. It'll be a lot of fun.
Well, hey,
let's work on that.
Thank you so much for coming by my house. And by the way, I got to ask you, I have the most beautiful drive on planet Earth is actually to leave Phoenix and go north 12 hours to Salt Lake. Have you ever made the drive?
Yes, it's fantastic.
Do you go through Vegas on the west, or do you go through Lee Ferry on the right?
I've done both.
And which one do you like better?
I like Lee Ferry, but
so do I.
But I like being out away from everything. So
God, and Bryce Canyon and all those. I mean, that is just. There are places along that drive from Sedona all the way up where scores of Hollywood movies were filmed. I mean, Sedona alone. I mean, they have a pink Jeep tour. If you ever come down to Phoenix for CE, about an hour and a half north of town, Sedona, and the first time everybody goes there, you think you're on Mars. You think you're on a different planet. And they have this pink Jeep tour, and they just stop and say, this is the scene where they filmed this. You're like, oh my God. And I mean, it's just the weirdest stuff. And then up more close to your area, Bryce Canyon, it's like, I don't know what happened on Earth, but when you see a house, a rock the size of a house sitting on a rock the size of a dining room table, you're thinking, how did that happen? What the hell happened here? But that is just truly God's country. I mean, it's just unbelievable drive.
A lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, and my dream someday is I want to bike that. I want to bicycle from there to there. I just think that would be fun. I don't know. I assume there's tour guides and all that stuff. But hey, thanks for coming by my house.
It's really great.
Thanks for spending an hour with me, and I'm going to hold you to. I hope. And by the way, you could help me out a lot. If you agree with anything I'm saying, start sending emails to Open Dental. The guy's on Dental Town. Jordan posts all the time. Jordan's the dentist, but his brother Nathan runs the show. And I think if we all did this, we could change dentistry.
Send emails to me. I'll work with you closely.
And what's your email?
My email is jbennett, JBENNETT at NOWCFO.com. So jbennett@nowcfo.com.
Well, Jim Bennett, thank you for coming by my house for an hour.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.